There we go. All right, we'll start with roll call. Pam Hall.
Here.
Bob Hutchinson.
Here.
Tom Moses.
Here.
Davis Bukowski.
Here.
Bob Reynolds.
Here.
And Wentz is excused.
He's on his way in.
Oh, Wentz is on his way in. And then Palmer, Perkins, and McGregor are excused. We have Jennifer and Mary. Don't look like anybody's on the YouTube. So we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Hey, Wentz. Motion to open the July 19th, 2023 Hamburg, New York Industrial Development Agency Board of Directors meeting at 8:35 or 7:35 a.m.
So move.
Second, thank you, Bob. First item on the agenda is a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the June 21st, 2023 meeting.
So move.
Thanks, Cam.
Second.
Thanks, Davis. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Once we saw you coming in, so we counted you on the attendance. You covered. Okay, next item is a motion to approve the financial report from June 30th, 2023.
Report.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna be not real lengthy, but it's gonna be a little lengthy. I'm gonna do the 6-month overview too, today. So, for the Hamburg IDA, we had total income of $3,012.69. We had business expenses and payroll expenses of $12,397.72. So we had no other expenses, memberships or anything like that. So our total expenses was 13,000. Oh yeah, we did have some on losing any sponsorship and stuff. But we had $13,524.76. So excess expenses over income ended up $10,512.07. And so currently our liabilities and assets are $969,746.04. Now that's for the month. If you look at the yearly column over there, obviously the biggest thing that's causing it's a little I don't think of the right word here. I'm not concerned, but something we have to really take a look at is our income. We're projected, according to the budget, to have $300,000 in income this year. Right now, we only have $14,478.59. So our total expenses this year so far have been $103,247.25. As a payroll, we allocated in that general area about $150,000. So we're right on target there. The only thing that's really affecting us a little bit is the income. So I know those are tough numbers to take a look at. I do have the expense report here, our budgets and everything like this. If anybody wants to really look at it, but most of it's on target. Again, we just have to stay on top of our income a little bit. If we do fall below this year, then obviously we have the money to cover it. We can make it up next year, but just we have projected about $300,000 this year. So everybody sees that coming in for the IDA. So is there any questions on the financial report?
Bob, I can kind of, if you want, I can review the approved projects.
Okay.
That we're still waiting on closing. So we do have approximately 202,000 in receivables. So we have the Grimsby expansion, which that has not closed. That's $18,400 roughly. The Staub Precision Machine project, which is the new build project on Staub Drive, that is receivables of $60,500. Mission Hills Phase 4 of roughly 122,000, and then we have a couple refinance in the works, which is only about, amounts to $1,000. So that's like roughly 202,000. I mean, but until these projects close,
Right.
the project, it's not guaranteed until it's in the bank. So we're pushing. And as of last month, we've, kind of stood away from the COVID
Right.
extensions. And we were going to become more stringent on extension exemptions in terms of added fees. So I think we're doing all we can really to push these projects with the amount of incentives that we've offered. It's just kind of waiting on the investors to go forward. I would say Mission Hills, it seems, I don't know if we've heard back from their attorney yesterday, but they've been talking about sales tax, and they've had a lot of questions on how it works on the policies and procedures. But we have not issued a certificate yet. So they cannot, start making sales tax exempt purchases. It seems as though it is moving forward. They had some issues with a prior closing on a project, so they needed the cash to move forward with this phase 4. That did occur. So it seems positive, but again, that's due to close in August, or they're going to be facing extension fees on top of the project. So
another thing too, we're going to discuss underneath the business interest rates, which will also bring in a little bit more income. But just so the board understands that, I mean, there is a shortfall right now on our income side, but we've been looking at it. I've been talking to Sean about that. So we do have projects lined up. We have some other things. But right now, the rest of our expenses seem to be on budget or below. Some of them are below too. So just so everybody knows where we are halfway through the year. Okay.
That's good, Bob. Thank you for bringing that
Yeah.
up. So can you remind me, do we run like a cash accounting procedure? So as soon as we book those projects, as soon as we close on those projects, they go on the books.
yeah.
The entirety.
They'll go on the
I wasn't sure if we
projects.
accrued for that over the.
No.
So we take it all when we get it.
And I wouldn't, because it's such a,
Yeah, I don't want to change our
lump sum.
accounting
Yeah.
procedures at this point.
Yeah, and and potentially it could, like 290 Lake. It was approved and never came to fruition, so I'd hate to count on that. And
Yeah, no, I was just saying, like, when we get,
yeah,
when the project closes, we take the entirety of our fees.
we know,
As they
yes, when the project closes. yes.
Rather than spread it over a year or something.
Exactly. Exactly.
So we projected what our total income was going to be, what?
It was about 300,000. If these projects come in and we're going to discuss some other changes underneath new business, we have potential to hit that 300,000 with what we're trying to do for the year.
If they close.
Yeah, so, we're trying to get to that break, always try to budget a break even point for us on this. We're not really a profit organization unless we have a lot of projects coming on that exceed our expenses. But right now, when we set up a budget, we try to budget income versus what we know what will be our expenses are pretty close for the year. So we're pretty good on all that stuff. We did a $25,000 grant this year. We put that in the budget. That's all set to go too. So, all those things have been covered. I just want, we have a lot of money there, but I just want everybody to realize that, if we don't have projects, then obviously we start dribbling down in that money. Right now, we're 103,000 into our balance of what we have on hand. But if we don't bring projects back in, then we'll obviously bring that balance back up. On the IDA side, this is the IDA side.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Thanks, Wentz.
I'll second.
And thank you. Any questions? Any further questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, on to my update. Let's see. So we did talk about the closings in kind of how those are pending. And again, we just kind of look to push in terms of potential new business. I do need to connect with Sinatra on that redevelopment, that reuse project next to Hamburg College, and see where that is at. I did have another meeting this week with the Feedmore and their potential projects. So where that would impact the IDA is if we would choose to support the project and able to support the project from a bond financing. They have about 66 million raised in cash, which is pretty amazing towards their towards this capital project, which would be this food terminal. So they could potentially look to finance maybe around $30 million, which would really put it in that make financial sense of going for the bonds. Conventional financing, the interest rates may be higher, but the fees and the kind of the legal navigation is more complex.
Right.
But when you get into the higher dollar value projects, it makes financial sense because with the tax exempt bonds, you'll get the lower interest rate. Another note on financials, the employee retention credit. It got kicked back. So we essentially got denied for the credit, saying that we're a public agency that operates under a public authority. So we're going to try to appeal it. I've talked to the Cattaraugus County IDA who did get the credit. This would be an amount of $21,000. So I want to see the email exchange that they had and it kind of what the justification was that would leverage this, and just make sure it's solid, because it doesn't do us any good either if we get the money and then they claim, file a claim that they would want it back. So just want to review that. We'll kick it to our accountant, Allied Financial, and kind of vet it through them and make sure it's okay. Because even though Cattaraugus got it, I still want to make sure that we are indeed eligible. The other one, which was not good news, was Cedar Land Development, which was under a purchase and sale agreement for the Gateway building. That they were, ready to come to the IDA for financial support, and the project fell through. They could not get financing to effectuate the sale. So that's kind of a, that's what you're seeing in the market. Certainly banks are very apprehensive about commercial office, financing commercial office. And it talks to the nature of the financial need of these projects for incentives that, even with, meeting with the IDA and running pro formas with an abatement, although it was presumptuous, but they would fall in line based on what their investment commitment was. They still could not get the appropriate financing to effectuate the sale. So therefore, the Gateway building is back on the market now. And we're continuing to work with the real estate broker and the owners over there to see if there's another potential purchaser. So
Is there a price tag on that at the moment?
I believe it was under contract for $3.9 million. So
The town's not interested in that building?
I've heard, I haven't heard that the town is, but I did hear that potentially, there might be some interest from the state of New York. The issue, it's similar to like the Seneca One Tower, it's 3.9 million, but the whole package that Cedarland had presented was about $10 million. So there was a lot of improvements associated with the building. Best I understand, a lot of the core components of the building, like the roof, the elevators, the mechanicals, are actually in good operating order. But there's asbestos containing materials. The building is dated. So there'd be a lot of kind of cosmetic updates, I think, that would need to be made to effectuate more leasing at a market rate that would make financial sense of the investment. So you'd have to put some substantial, it's a big building. It's 160,000 square feet, I believe. So, on a per square foot cost, the acquisition is low, but you might need another $10 to $15 a square foot just to provide the update. So although the price tag may seem, appealing and digestible for the town, it's that, the associated improvements that would maybe put a burden on the town for that. So, we continue pushing in that regard. And then I did talk about, before we convened the meeting, was that Worldwide Protective Products, which is a PPE manufacturer in Hamburg. They were sold to a company out of state, and they're looking to move out of state. They issued a warn notice, and they will be laying off around 60 employees at the end of the year. So we'll be working with the owner there to, seek a user for that space. It's good manufacturing space. And then we'll be working with Worldwide, on job availability and job potential, where they could potentially locate, hopefully at some other place of employment in the town.
Is it the old Walmart?
Yes, it's the old Walmart thing. So,
So they took their whole manufacturing out of state then?
yeah. Yeah, they moved the jobs out of state.
State couldn't come in with any incentives for 60 days.
So, this was really unbeknownst to us,
Not us, I'm talking about
The
the
state.
state. Talk to the state.
Well, I don't know if they did or not. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, on the positive side, there is, the Amazon is moving forward.
Yeah.
We're monitoring, they were hiring like the managerial level staff at the site. Mary signed up, to get notification. So as soon as they start hiring for Hamburg, I think that, those jobs are listed in Western New York. The front end jobs are listed up to $18.40 an hour now. So hopefully, it will be at least a lateral transition, for some of these people who will be displaced, by this company moving out.
You know what state they went to? Chuck?
The Worldwide has offices like plants in Massachusetts and North Carolina. So I'm not exactly sure, he had mentioned North Carolina. But, I would imagine it's a combination of the two.
Okay, thanks.
So advocacy and legislation, we did have interviews based on the response from the press conference at the Amazon site regarding limiting new municipal IDAs. So we came out to talk to our perspective. The editorial letter went out, and actually the same day as the press conference, that was in the Buffalo News. So that was good timing, and it was a good means to convey, the impact that particularly the Hamburg IDA has on the school districts. I know that was a concern that the school districts are going without tax dollars, but we were there to convey the amount of new revenue that IDA projects had generated to the school district. So we did interviews with Channel 4, which I don't think they used or talked about IDAs at all. So I don't think they did anything with the interview. But it was on Channel 2 and then also in the Hamburg Sun. So we had some good advocacy out there. And I think, even for better or worse, it still promotes Hamburg. And I think that it is important. And I appreciate the board allowing me to go out and talk about, our side of the story, which is the benefit of these projects, not only at the onset, but, as these pilots burn off. We were talking about Federal Express, where the pilot is, half expired. And, you're generating upwards of $300,000 out of that project, not to mention, they've far exceeded their jobs. I know it was a provocative project back in the day, but there's at any event, there's a substantial financial impact between the hundreds of jobs there, and then also the hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxable revenue. All the while, they're still under abatement. So you can see, in not too short a time, 4 or 5 years, where these pilots are, kind of getting ready to sunset the investment into the community.
It's one of my opinionated things today, but I want to get to this board. This is a volunteer board, and I really like what we've done on the advocacy and what you've done on it. It speaks volumes out here, because we're trying to do development within Hamburg with districts that are represented between school and villages in the town. And it's a volunteer board that's out there trying to drive this. And there's nobody in this room getting paid other than our directors and our staff. I think that says a lot. I think we should be more involved instead of the state trying to handcuff us. I think they should set up boards like this so they can start driving from the perspective of the volunteers who are out there in the community. And, you know, I know we're on record and everything like this, but that's very important to me. And that's when I see this pushback, because they're not taking opportunities like this worldwide protection products. You know, we got a late notice. They should be on top of that. Somebody should be on top of that to lose 60 jobs like that. It's a lot of jobs in our community out there. And if we're competing with North Carolina or we're competing with Massachusetts, we got to know why they're leaving down there and what incentives that we can do to keep some of these jobs here. And I think, unfortunately, the state agencies that oversee us are looking at us wrong because they've had some bad taste in their mouths from other agencies because they don't get that good volunteer board out there. And it, you know, Wentz and I are both from the union side. That's great having on the board on there. At least we give you perspective from the union side, and we got the management side, we got a school side. Again, this is my opinion. It's not the board's opinion, but I want to thank this board for really being, you know, in the forefront of a lot of areas.
There's, something I'd like to add to that. It's easy to throw stones when you stand there in a press conference and throw stones. Meanwhile, while they're at a press conference, another place is getting up and moving out of Hamburg. The people that were at that meeting should have been concentrating on the jobs that are being lost out of Hamburg and the amount of money that the school board is losing out of that. That's all they care about. And I was upset. I found out about the meeting and I let you know that they're gonna do something. Nobody notified Bob or I about that. But other labor people were out there. I mean, there was one member that used to be a member here that actually let me know about it. And
You talking about the worldwide building?
I'm talking about the press conference.
Oh, the Amazon one, yeah.
If I wasn't reaching out to my Teamster brother to find out about their upcoming strike, I would have never known about it. And I would have seen it on TV, I'd have been even more upset. I think I talked to Bob the day or two after, and just to find out about that without having given a heads up. We had our whatever Oak is, he's supervisor. Some of us are his members on the board that he could replace. And then let us know about it. So it upsets me. It upsets me because I know you're doing a good job. These ladies back here are doing a good job. And I know everyone here is here on their own time and they're all really doing good and add a lot to the table. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. I'm ticked off.
You're right, and Bob made a good point that there's a really diverse background of people on this board, from union management, village, school district. You know what? And it doesn't matter what our positions are or what we do on the outside. The big point is we're all in the same boat.
Right.
And if we don't work together, we're gonna sink together.
Absolutely. And especially in this economy, it's a worldwide economy. I mean, people think we compete against states, we're competing against countries for jobs and everything like that out here. And we're losing sight of that fact because, like Wentz says, you're picking up issues that are not about the community at times. They should be strengthening these boards, and they need an economic engine in a community. They really do. And that's what this board is providing. Look at the list we got here. The project activities. Now I've been on the board. Janet's probably been longer, and Tommy, but I've been on this is my 7th year, Tom. 7 years on this board, and I've watched it change, and I've watched it actually grow quite extensively. And it's great to have the school districts are so important to be representative because you can take that back. So,
Yeah, I'd say we do need more from the state. One of the things I have on here that's been carried for I don't know how long now are these hub zones. We've been trying to work with the state to get, the Blaisdell area approved as a hub zone to try to get some competitive advantage for manufacturing and construction jobs there for federal contracts. And it's just like, these things do not move forward at a good clip to keep us competitive. Certainly, we see our project flow dwindle. There's a number of economic factors that are hurting that. What keeps me up at night is in light of the headwinds we're facing now, we're on the horizon of more regulation in terms of added construction costs for utility, to comply with the new utility requirements and building standards that are coming forward. And and then where's that going to lead us? So we have we don't have a good mix here. We don't have a good state plan for economic development. And then on top of this, we're going to be, deemed less competitive due to, legislation that's in the pipeline with requirements that are set to ensue, in the upcoming, in the short term, really, in the next couple of years, that are going to make, our region our state, not only our region, even less competitive. So it's stressful. I mean, we really need a better push toward economic development that really steps aside from, marijuana and gambling. That's not going to be our panacea for resurrecting, employment opportunities in the state and in the town.
Well said.
Okay.
All my statements are mine.
We did through our, one area that's been and then operating at a decent clip is our business development loan fund. We authorized a loan based on some contingencies for a new business in the town. And there's another one that's an application process, certainly a function of the higher interest rates and more stringent financing requirements. So the economic factors have led to, an uptick in that program versus the times when the interest rates were very low and the program was generally not as needed. So it's nice that we kind of have, this dichotomy of tools that allows, business in some way, shape, or form to move forward. So we're kind of, pushing from a number of fronts to drive economic development in Hamburg. So that's positive. Any other questions or comments on my report? I'll move on to new business. One thing that Bob had alluded to were our savings and deposits. So we did do an analysis. Mary and I sought out opportunities for certificates of deposit, and we performed an analysis on kind of where our money currently is and where we could best manage our deposits to make the most of the available cash on hand in lieu of the current interest rates. So we did look at a scenario where we would open up a number of $250,000 certificate of deposits because we couldn't keep them with the same financial institution due to the federal deposit insurance limitations. And then we met with our current bank, which is Bank on Buffalo, and looked at our current structure of our savings and what products they have. And they had a new product for higher level deposits, which we fall into that category. So more of a premium type of commercial customer, where it's a demand deposit rate and it would be a higher interest rate. So we made the recommendation to go into this demand deposit type of account, which would fluctuate, anywhere around like 4.4% to 4.8%. So we took an average of that, and that would essentially be the lump sum of the monies, where obviously we wouldn't want to tie up our cash in a certificate of deposit. So with being able to manage a higher balance at a lower interest rate, 5 basis points lower, we can generate more interest by keeping the money in the demand deposit account versus multiple certificates of deposit. So that recommendation, and then also, the potential error of the certificate of deposit, managing across several accounts. Certainly Mary has us 100% tied down administratively, but it certainly opens up risk. If you have multiple accounts and multiple sources, you're tracking different maturity dates. So there is some administrative risk there, but with the financial potential, it forecasts as more potential to go with that scenario to keep our current, Upstate Bank certificate of deposit, which is at 4%, just due to the increased, since that was locked in April of 2023. So we're committed to that. So that's kind of sunk in there. But then with averaging that, demand deposit account, we're looking at around, $92,000 a year in interest with the cash on hand. And this is between the two companies. So this would be between the IDA and the LBC. So I don't want you to think that this would be 92,000 in interest and it would plug that potential budget gap. This is between the two companies.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, we looked this all the way at discussion, Sean and I, and Mary did a lot of good work on this. If we've got negotiations, this interest rate with the bank on Buffalo, I think it's very, very good if we continue that type of development, because when we bring the 250 back, obviously the 250 goes back into there, so we've got this ability to gain or lose even more based on our overall money that we're invested in the bank on Buffalo. So, I really, my recommendation to the board, looking this all over as we go with scenario number 2, and get this on-demand deposit. I really like this idea out here, so hopefully it'll offset a lot of our cash flow, where it's constant. Interest is always kind of constant stuff, and I don't see interest rates going down in the future anytime soon, back to the 0% range.
Correct.
So I guess I'm not familiar with demand deposit, so we're not locking it up.
No, it's not locked up. So it's
What's the catch?
there's really no catch. It's just a function of the current interest rates. There's more management of the money. So essentially what the bank does is the bank puts the money out to market at, at night, essentially. And then essentially lends it out to other banks to use in amounts that are FDIC insured. So even though it's kind of lent out, it's spread among different banks. So you meet your FDIC insurance requirements, and then essentially it's available for use the next day. So M&T has a similar product. And with our current, with the bank on Buffalo rates and with being the current customer of theirs, it just really made a lot of sense to switch over that. And it is for companies that, there is effort, so that they need margin. So they're looking for companies with higher deposits. I think it's $500,000 enough to maintain an account like that.
Does that interest fluctuate on a daily
It
basis?
does, yeah. So that's why we're kind of have like a high and a low end there.
Right.
So that will, if interest rates go up, then we'd be trending more towards that 4.8% side. And currently it's like 4.3, 4.4.
Yeah, but we don't have to differentiate between our savings account and checking account either, Bob. So we're gonna get the interest on all our deposits at the same rate. You know what I'm saying? So because a lot of times they'll give you your checking account, they give you
Right.
much lower rate. It's all together.
And we manage the checking account really is just, we kind of Mary manages that, on a like a 2-month. So we'll draw from savings if needed or transfer to savings if needed, and really just maintain a balance in our checking account to cover our like 60-day expenses.
Right.
But
obviously it's still at a higher interest rate.
But you're getting a better rate.
Yeah, we're still getting a higher interest rate on that for the.
Even better than like to the treasury auction. You're getting in everything. Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Nice work finding that.
Good.
So we got, but Bob,
No,
I made
actually,
a recommendation. to the
yeah,
board. I'd
so-
really read not.
well, and we're authorized with the bank on Buffalo bank account. We're not, making any
Right.
change. So if we would determine that we go to like KeyBank, Bank of Montreal, these companies that had the 5% CDs, then we would need authorization. But at this point, we're just kind of operating under the parameters that we're allowed.
Just so the board all knows about it, that's my recommendation.
Yeah, I just want to highlight like the due diligence. Bethlem LLC Upstate Steel, they had expressed interest on a refinance. They have not followed up with the appropriate documentation. It was carried on the agenda with hopes we would get the information. We have not gotten it. So I'm going to motion to table Bethlem LLC Upstate Steel consent to refinance. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's a very
There we
provocative
go.
one. All in favor?
You're in the second
Opposed?
chair there.
Thank you. Okay, next I have a resolution of the Hamburg Industrial Development Agency adopting a revised form of project and agent agreement. Whereas New York State General Municipal Law requires that every industrial development agency adopt a uniform form of project agent agreement, and whereas in the natural course of business, the agency has reviewed its project and agent agreement and has discovered the needs to update the same for the good of the agency and the good of future agency projects. Whereas the agency has reviewed and discussed the amended project agent agreement, now therefore be it resolved as follows. The agency hereby adopts the amended project agent agreement. The amended project agent agreement shall be effective immediately dated July 19th, 2023.
So moved.
Thanks, Cam.
Second.
Thanks, Bob. On to question, and I can kind of explain some of the changes, highlight.
Mine's real simple. Jen. Did you see anything that you would, that brings a red flag to you?
No, Sean and I went through it and everything was good.
Okay. Well,
We
my
did-
word's
we did-
okay, I'm okay.
We did, just to highlight for the board, we did make changes, several changes, not too extensive. But what we really, the underlying motivation of this was to make it in line with the revised recapture policy.
Okay.
So like language in the project agent agreement reflected that the job commitment was to be for 1 year. We made changes to the project agent agreement that the job commitment has to be for the life of the, minimally the life of the abatement here. So that's essentially the changes that were made to this. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, I think that brings us to the end.
Mary, can you tell us if we're not in compliance?
We have Janet
I am, okay.
Wentz. You must have some sexual harassment
Yeah, listen,
training
So
certification, right?
I took the class, I'm just waiting on the
The
secretary to
certificate.
send me a certificate.
Okay,
It's like pulling teeth. I took it at GM, I took it at you, so I took 2 classes.
yeah, I was gonna say
Gotta
for
get
the size
somebody
companies that
to-
you're.
We're trying to do it annually, right?
So I have to.
Yeah, state law. We got no guests here, no privilege of the floor, executive session. Motion to adjourn the July 19th meeting at 8:11 a.m. Thank you, Tom. Second, thank you, Tom. All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Next meeting, August 16th. Next is the Hamburg, New York LDC Board of Directors meeting. We have Paul
Yeah, here.
Hutchison.
Here.
Janet is excused. Thomas Moses.
Here.
Davis Pekulski.
Here.
Bob Reynolds.
Here.
Lance Valentin.
Here.
Motion to open the July 19th Hamburg, New York LDC meeting at 8:12 a.m.
So move.
Tom,
Second.
thank you, Cam. First item are the minutes from the June 21st, 2023 Board of Directors meeting.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions? All in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Carried. Next item on the agenda is the financial report from June 30th, 2023.
Again, we've got a 6-month review too with this, but on our monthly thing, we had $5,107.17 in income. We had no expenses this month, so our income over expenses was $5,107.17, which brings our total assets to $1,667,772.97. So I will need a motion after I finish my speech here. On the second half, if you look at the overall 6 months period here, we had $22,828.01 in income. So far, our total expenses is $10,930. So we had more income over expenses again of $11,898.01. So we made some money in for the first 6 months here. On budget, we had projected, this is great, we only projected $6,000 in income. And already with everything that we've made in our changes in finances, we're way over that projected budget. I also would like to, I've talked to Mary on this. I would like to set up, when this land deal goes through, that we set up an asset account in this company and this organization. That we put the asset of the purchase that we're doing on a separate line, and any expenses we need for development or redevelopment go underneath that asset. So when we do spend approximately, 400,000 or something, the asset is shown at 400,000, so our budget line stays, $1.9 million will stay there. And then we can put the expenses against that asset underneath it, so we know what we do on that project going forward. So that's another recommendation to the board. In other words, track this asset as we go forward on a separate line. So if we got to say we put 20 into electrical, it can still come out of the the land development thing, but we know it's against the asset out there. So when we do go sell the asset, we can, I know there's a.
Evaluate profitability.
Properly.
And if we might have 2 assets.
Right.
Or 10 assets. at the
Right,
same
whatever
time.
we do, we should put our properties at
Good
that
thought.
asset there. So going forward. So that's my recommendation, but other than that, everything looks good, budget wise too. I went over the budget. The biggest expense we've had so far is legal and accounting. Out of 4,500 we budget, we spent $3,750 on that. So is there any questions for me? Yes, sir.
Why are they not 2 different pages?
Because it's probably easier to print out.
Well, the QuickBooks does do it's a form, document, so it's a form report. I mean, this one is shorter than the IDA, so the IDA needs to go on 2 pages.
Okay.
I mean, we could look to copy and paste it if it would help.
Should say. Would help me personally, but I mean, I don't know about everybody else. We put it back and forth, what he's reading from. First, I gotta find it. All right,
So you're
Doesn't
the
help.
financial chairman now?
I got too many titles.
So anyways, that's my financial report and recommendation. So the board's along with that. Just let Sean know. If anybody has any questions on that? Ask.
No, it makes a lot of sense.
So we put that.
Motion's approved.
I second that.
Cam, did you have a question?
No, I was gonna make the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I do have some updates on 0 Lakeshore Road, our due diligence and closing date. I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session to discuss the real estate contracts at 8:16 a.m.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, well,